The cross Simon hated carrying was the very thing that brought him closer to Jesus, but in that moment he did not know that. All he felt was the weight, the hand of a Roman soldier grabbing his arm, the crowd opening around him, the blood-stained wood falling onto his shoulders. Simon had not condemned that man. He had not shouted against him. Maybe he did not even fully know who Jesus was. He only wanted to pass through Jerusalem without drawing attention. But Rome did not ask his name. Rome did not ask where he came from. Rome did not ask if he was ready. Rome only pointed at him, and in a matter of seconds, Simon stopped being a nameless man lost in the crowd. Now he was on the road to the cross, with a wounded, condemned man beside him. And one question, tearing through his heart: why me? A little before that cross touched his shoulders, Simon was just another pilgrim arriving in Jerusalem. He had come from Cyrene, with the weight of the journey still heavy in his legs. He did not know every street. He did not understand every look. He did not know where the crowd would press in the hardest. And in a city ruled by Rome, drawing attention could be dangerous. Simon did not want to be seen. He only wanted to cross the city, find a place, keep the Passover, and return home in peace. Jerusalem was packed. People from everywhere squeezed through the narrow streets. Voices collided in the air. Animals moved between vendors. Children ran near the walls until their mothers pulled them close whenever a Roman soldier passed by. The feast made Jerusalem crowded. Rome made Jerusalem dangerous. Helmets flashed between the heads of the people. Spears cut through the sunlight. Firm hands rested near whips as if one wrong movement could turn into pain. To that crowd, Simon had no name. He was just another man trying to get through. But that was about to change. First, the voices began to drop. Then a child stopped running. A vendor stopped speaking in the middle of a sentence. A woman pulled her son behind her. Then came a strange sound. Heavy, dragging, wood scraping against stone. And suddenly, the street began to open. First came the shouting, then came the hard sound of sandals and metal as soldiers forced their way through the people. Simon turned his head and saw the crowd pressing against the walls. Some stretched their necks to see. Others lowered their eyes as if looking too long could also be dangerous. It was the road of a Roman execution. It was not just a condemned man being led away. It was Rome forcing the city to watch. In the middle of the soldiers, Simon saw a wounded man, blood mixed with dust, knees unsteady, breathing like someone who had almost no strength left. But there was something about that condemned man Simon could not explain. He did not react like someone filled with hatred. He did not scream at the soldiers. He did not look for revenge in the eyes of the crowd. He simply walked, wounded and nearly broken, as if that cross was only part of a deeper pain. Simon did not understand it, and maybe that was exactly what frightened him. He took one step back, then another, not because he felt nothing, but because he felt too much, and he wanted to become just another face hidden among many. Then that man's knee gave out. The wood struck the stone with a dry, brutal sound. For a moment, even the crowd seemed to hold its breath. And in that short silence, the soldiers began looking around. They were not looking for the most faithful man. They were not looking for the most willing man. They were only looking for someone strong enough to obey. A soldier's eyes moved across the men in the crowd and stopped on Simon. It was not an invitation. It was an order. Before Simon could step back, the soldier's hand closed around the fabric of his cloak and pulled him out of the crowd. Simon planted his feet. He looked around for help. No one moved. The crowd opened. Some looked at him with pity. Others looked away. Maybe some even felt relief that they had not been chosen. Before the wood hurt his shoulders, the eyes of the crowd had already exposed him. Suddenly, Simon was no longer an anonymous pilgrim. He was the man pushed close to a condemned prisoner. He was the man everyone saw carrying a cross that was not his. 2 soldiers lifted the wood and threw it onto his shoulders. Heavy, rough, stained with blood, dust, and sweat. The wood did not only weigh on him, it hurt him. The splinters bit into his skin. The weight knocked the breath out of his chest before any thought could form. The blood was not his. The sentence was not his. That death was not his. But the weight was now his. And as the shaft of a spear touched his back, pushing him forward, one question hit him harder than the wood. Why me? With every step, the cross seemed to sink deeper into Simon's shoulders. The sweat made the splinters burn. The dust stuck to his skin. But it was not only the wood, it was the staring. Some saw only another man trapped in the path of an execution. Others whispered. Others looked away quickly, as if that shame could touch them too. Simon walked with anger, with fear, with humiliation. He wanted to shout that he did not know that man, that he was only passing by, that the blood was not his. But Rome did not want explanations. Rome wanted obedience. If he stopped, he would be beaten. If he complained, maybe he would fall beside the condemned man. So he kept walking, step after step, stone after stone, breath after breath. The question beat inside him with every movement. Why am I carrying this? Then, in the middle of his anger, Simon looked to the side. He did not look with faith. He did not look with reverence. He looked almost with resentment, as if he wanted to understand who this man was whose pain had invaded his life. And that was when he saw the condemned man up close. Not the way the crowd saw him, not the way the soldiers saw him, but the way only a few people on that street could see him. He saw the short breath, the swollen face, the blood mixed with dust, and the eyes of a man who suffered without hatred. Up close, he looked even more wounded, one eye nearly closed from the swelling, dried blood at the corner of his mouth. Dust stuck to his sweat. Every breath seemed to scrape inside him. Simon looked at him, then looked away, then looked again. There was something in that silence he could not explain. At first, maybe Simon thought it was weakness. Maybe that man was silent because he no longer had strength to react. But when the soldier pushed, he only staggered and kept going. His pain did not come out as hatred, and that disturbed Simon. Because Simon himself, carrying that wood for only a few steps, already felt angry enough to scream, angry at the soldier, angry at the stairs, angry at the weight, and maybe for one brief moment, even angry at that wounded man. Not because he knew him, but because that man's pain had just invaded his life. His fall had put Simon there. His suffering had made Rome choose another body, and now Simon was carrying part of it without understanding why. But that man did not offer him an enemy. He did not return a threat. He did not look for someone to blame. His pain did not become a curse. His silence did not feel like defeat. And Simon's anger began to have nowhere to land. The wood still tore into his shoulders, but now something else was troubling him inside. Why does he not hate? The climb seemed endless. Every step pulled air from Simon's chest. Every stone pushed him back toward the question he could not answer. Why me? But the question was no longer the same as it had been at the beginning. At first it was anger. Now it was confusion. Because Simon had not received an explanation. He had only received a walk. And on that walk, the condemned man seemed to carry something no soldier could see, something heavier than the cross, deeper than the shame, more silent than the crowd. When they reached the place of execution, the name itself seemed to weigh on the air. Golgotha, the place of the skull, the place where Rome ended its sentences in front of everyone. The soldiers took the wood off Simon's shoulders as if they were removing any ordinary load. To them, it was only wood, only urgency, one more death before the day was done. Simon expected to feel relief, but the relief did not come completely. The cross was no longer crushing his shoulders. No one was holding his cloak. No one was pushing his back. The obligation was over. He could leave. He could disappear again among the faces of the crowd. He could try to become once more the pilgrim who only wanted to cross Jerusalem in peace. Simon took half a step to go. Then he stopped. His shoulders burned. His hands trembled. Dust clung to his face, and before him stood that man, still wounded, still silent, still without hatred. The soldiers moved around him, preparing the next horror, but Simon could no longer look at that scene the same way. When they took the cross away, Simon thought he would be free, but freedom was no longer that simple. The wood was no longer on his shoulders, but that face was still before his eyes, and that was a weight Simon did not know how to put down. For the first time, the question inside him changed. It was no longer only, why did I carry this? Now it was, why am I still here? Simon's story disturbs us because it does not feel distant. It feels too familiar. He did not look for that cross. He did not cause that sentence. He did not ask to become part of that scene. Even so, the weight fell on his shoulders. And maybe that is what hurts. Being pushed onto a road you did not choose, carrying a responsibility that began in someone else's hands, continuing to walk while no one sees how heavy it is inside. Sometimes Simon's question is born inside us too. Why me? Why now? Why like this? But Simon saw something that injustice alone could not explain. The cross he did not choose did not make the pain smaller. It did not erase the shame. It did not make violence beautiful. But it placed Simon near Jesus in a way he never would have chosen on his own. And maybe that is where this story reaches us. Not every weight comes with an answer. Not every pain comes with an explanation. Simon did not receive an explanation. He received a walk. And on the road he never wanted to take, Christ was near, only a few steps away, breathing with difficulty, covered in blood and dust, returning hatred to no one. Maybe some of the pains you never chose are not proof that God has moved away. Maybe they are revealing that Christ is closer than your pain allowed you to see. Simon wanted distance from that cross, distance from the pain, distance from the soldiers, the crowd, and that wounded man he still did not understand. But the weight he tried to avoid was exactly what placed him beside Jesus. It was not a choice, it was an imposition. It was fear, shame, and anger. It was a brutal order he could not refuse, and that did not make the injustice right. But it showed Simon something he never would have seen from far away. While the wood was on his shoulders, he obeyed Rome. When the wood was taken away, something inside him was still held by Jesus. The biblical text does not tell us everything that happened to Simon afterward. It does not give us every thought. It does not show us the whole walk home. But it tells us enough. An ordinary man was pulled from the crowd, but he carried a cross that was not his. He walked near Jesus on the darkest day, and he left marked by a scene no man would easily forget. Sometimes, in the wait you never asked for, you do not find a clean explanation. You find Christ closer than you imagined. Simon entered that street trying to disappear into the crowd, but he left it unable to forget the face of Jesus.